motion in the causal body. Some very interesting things. Okay. Actually, we have a hi. We have a fair bit still to do on yesterday's subject. All right. So we talked yesterday about the Son of Righteousness arising with healing in his wings, and we discussed the idea that this is the initiate of the fourth degree, who has proven his righteousness and has developed the power of the wings. Sometimes Master Moria refers to that as the rays extending from the shoulders. He talks about these as spiritual centers, which are ignited at a certain point in the evolutionary process. Let's see here. Yes, that's good. There are, in connection with human evolution, certain factors which produce definite and important results when connected with each other through linking streams of energy and therefore consciously functioning. We talked yesterday about the role of Mercury in linking these many energy centers together, and we talked about the relationship of the fifth ray to the fourth. The fifth ray producing knowledge of the specific item, and the fourth ray linking these items together, producing new energies through relationship. These factors might be considered as follows. See, we're in that part of the book which is really synthetic. It is putting many factors together. Of course, it's not that we have necessarily absorbed all that has gone before. I think not. But in any case, once the book is finished, it should be started again. And some groups have done that, realizing that perhaps a few things have been missed along the way. These factors might be considered as follows, dividing them into two groups, each of them emphasizing the duality of the microcosmic manifestation. All right. Here is a line of connections. The knowledge petals, the outer petals of the egoic lotus. The knowledge petal in each of the two inner circles, and we discussed that really there are 5 knowledge petals, 5 love petals, and 5 sacrifice petals, even though there are only 9. So there are 15 rather than 9, and some are counted twice. The centers on the mental plane, and by that one means these. We have here the base of the spine, the sacral center, the solar plexus, and the spleen. And these are all on the 4th level of the mental plane. There are no chakras per se, other than the egoic lotus on the higher mental plane, but one day there may well be, when the egoic lotus is destroyed, and when a master seeks to materialize his inner nature on the outer planes, then our own chakras will take the place of the egoic lotus as it now exists. And as well, we will have the Buddhic chakras and the Atmic chakras and so forth, which are not pictured on this chart. So the centers on the mental plane, the throat center in etheric matter, which is the lowest of the throat centers. There's an astral throat center. The Alta Major center, presumably in etheric matter, and not representing the carotid glands themselves. And then the physical brain. So from the knowledge petals, by this line of connection through to the physical brain, this is one of the factors which has to be connected. Then we look at that to which it is to be connected, group 2, the love petals, the love petal in each circle, namely knowledge love and sacrifice love, plus the 3 love petals. And let's see, I think we have that. Meaning these are all love petals, all these central petals, plus knowledge love, plus sacrifice love, petals 2 and petal 8. The centers on the astral plane, of which there are numerous, all 7 on the astral plane are found here. The Ajna center is not given, although in esoteric healing he talks about the Ajna center on the astral plane, so it certainly does exist. This is in esoteric healing. I think it's page 51 or so. Let's see, 51 or 151. Here it is, astral force, Ajna. It brings through 4th ray energy, so it is a center. However, it is my impression that since each one of these subplanes also has 7 divisions, in other words, every one of the systemic planes is not just 7-fold, it is 49-fold. So it's my impression that the Ajna center will also be found on the highest subplane, but in a lesser division than the crown center. Maybe it'll be found on the 2nd sub-sub or 3rd sub-sub, something of that nature. There is room to locate these centers as still on the same subplane, but in a certain division of that subplane. Okay, then centers on the astral plane going to the heart center in the etheric body, going to the pituitary body, which is in back of the eyes and a bit lower down, and then the sympathetic nervous system. These are to be related. This is the love line, and the previous is the knowledge line. We discussed quite a bit about how the major factor to be undertaken at this time is the union of love and mind. The union of love and mind. The union of love and mind is accomplished by what planet particularly? Venus particularly. It has the 5th ray and the 2nd ray connected with it. It's rather interesting when you look at the people who study esoteric astrology, and you know the conventional astrological approach does not consider Venus in its 5th ray aspect. And it even looks a little bit erroneous to consider Venus as the planet of scientific mind and clear thinking and so forth, because its love aspect has been so much emphasized in ordinary astrology. So, but it would be also wrong only to emphasize its 5th ray aspect, although that does seem to be its soul nature. Yes. Well, you know, this is a question. What is the heart in the head center? What planet rules it. With respect to the solar system, Venus is, I believe, the solar plexus in relation to the solar logos. It's the fifth center down. It has a monadic sixth ray. It's related to Kama Manus. So that's the large view. With respect to man, Venus rules the ajna center. When it comes to the heart and the head, Vulcan is involved in some mysterious way. And I would say Neptune is, I think, the true ruler of the heart and the head center, showing an ability of the monadic level to use the heart in the head center. So there is a monadic Buddhic connection to the heart in the head center, which I think that that Neptune, which is the higher octave of Venus, describes well. Now, as I've sometimes said, I believe we will find that there is progression in every system, and a planet which operates in one function during a certain time period may move up and occupy another function. In other words, one day you may be a master, but in days beyond that you may be a Chohan. You will still be the same identity, but your function will be different. So I find that the various planets will be moving up. There will probably come a time when the synthesis planets may be out of the system, and their place will be taken by planets like Venus that are moving up, as it were. Yes. Yes, it is the higher octave of Venus. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. But right now, DK does give us two connections with Venus. He definitely talks about it as the ajna center in man. He talks about Jupiter as the heart center, but he connects it also with the heart center of the solar logos. He definitely does that. And what I believe is that it is on its way to fulfill that particular function, whereas now it fills a solar plexus function with Mars as the sacral center and Earth as the perhaps one-day base of the spine. Pluto is also found in connection with the base of the spine. Would it then mean that in the next solar system, Venus could be a synthesizing planet? Yes, it certainly could. It could mean that. It could well mean that those planets that serve a lesser function now, like Venus, which is really very advanced for its age, very precocious, you might say. Venus is not of the same spiritual status as Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, but in terms of its age, it is tremendously advanced. In terms of the spiritual status it does have, it's extremely unfolded. So like the Christ, Venus has made extraordinary progress. There's a real analogy there that the Christ has outstripped every human being in his progress, and Venus, in a way, has moved faster than any planet, even though Venus is young compared to the elders, like, the synthesizing planets and Jupiter. We'll see in the next solar system where we will be, what we will be doing. If you believe Blavatsky, there's only about 150 trillion years to wait, Earth years. So I think it requires some patience to see by that time, of course, think about many of us will have been to Sirius and back by that time. So I said trillion with 12 zeros, trillion, 12 zeros. So the numbers involved in the ageless wisdom are totally staggering. As a matter of fact, when you think about it, The scientific figures given for the age of the universe is about 15 million years. And here we're just talking about our solar system within that universe existing yet another 150 trillion. There is a mismatch in the figures, and they have to be adjusted when occultism emerges more in the scientific mind. Master Kuthumi has said there will be many, many adjustments in scientific thinking, and especially in the realm of geology, he has pointed this out. Where is Atlantis? Where is Lemuria? Where are those civilizations? Where are the replicas of those things? And he says, buried far beneath the ocean, and they will come to light. Remember, it's our planetary logos that has made us sick. He's an imperfect God, and and that's why we have colds. All right. So anyway, these various alignments, when functioning with due adjustment, which is that equilibrating relationship that comes so much under Mercury and Venus, result in the transmission of energy in the first case from the monastic permanent atom, and in the second case from the Buddhic permanent atom. So we're all, trying to build the Antakarana, and we have seen that the Buddhic permanent atom has a definite connection with the love petals. We have seen this here. Here's the Buddhic permanent atom. Here are the lines, the blue lines going to the love petals. We've seen the monastic permanent atom with definite connections to the knowledge petals. From the monastic permanent atom and from the Buddhic permanent atom, and remember that it didn't even start there. Where did it start? It started in the threefold monad, didn't it? In other words, will, wisdom, and activity in the monad. So wisdom reaches the Buddhic permanent atom, which then reaches the love petals, and activity reaches the monastic permanent atom, which then reaches the knowledge petals. It will be apparent, therefore, how important it is that the student duly considers the process of bringing about a uniform alignment and a conscious appreciation of the vibratory processes of these two groups. And that is our curriculum at the moment. We are attempting to unite the soul and personality, and so some sense of the vibratory processes of the two alignments is already belonging to us. We have a sense of what it's like to be aligned as a mind, and occasionally maybe we have a sense of what it's like to really be aligned as a soul. We can talk so far ahead of where we are. Even reading a book like this is an absolute invitation to talk far beyond where we really are. Where we really are is trying to bring love, wisdom into the personality on 7-ray lines. That's what we're trying to do. Now my wife has put some kind of evil brew in this thing. It's all right. The monks used to make it. It's called Carmolis, They never got sick, right? Okay. As he brings this adjustment about, the effect upon the physical plane will be the manifestation of the powers of the soul. So when these two lines involving the love petals and the knowledge petals are in right adjustment, the soul will manifest its nature upon the physical plane. And that's the one thing we're really trying to see happen. Of all the things we're trying to see happen, that is the most important. And healing capacity will be manifested. The man will become a what? Okay. The man will become a focal point for egoic energy and a server of the race. I remember, I put my kids through this thing called the Suzuki method. Dr. Suzuki from Japan, he taught all the children somehow how to play the violin. He says, look, they can speak their own language. They can play the violin. They can play the cello. They can play the viola. All the stringed instruments, he taught them how to play, and they just learned it by heart, you know. So I used to go to these summer retreats where all the kids from, let's say, Wisconsin and North Dakota and all that would get together for a 5-day or 7-day Suzuki festival. Well, of course, he was a very, very successful person and much loved. And then it began to be noticed that people were spontaneously healed in his presence. How did that happen? I mean, he wasn't a healer per se, was he? But he had so much of the love and beauty energy flowing through him that happened, which is here given. Spontaneously, the radiation of your vehicles becomes such that you are a spontaneous natural healer. Just the way it is so that all members of the hierarchy are truly esoteric psychologists, no matter what their ray may be, because they are living souls. So these results, the linking of the triangle in the head and so forth, which will give, it says in esoteric healing, that dispelling radiance will happen naturally as we pursue our alignment. Okay. Now it says here, the man becomes a focal point for egoic energy and a server of the race, and it talks about the black magician now. The magician of form, the magician of selfishness, using the powers of the soul, 1/3 of the powers at least, and certainly the intelligent powers for his own selfish ends. The black magician brings about similar results by means of the first group. The black magician is very smart. The initiates of the earlier solar system, and they are extremely monastic. And they somehow have this divide between their acute intelligence and the love energy. Okay. So it's the monastic alignment that the black magician uses, only with the exception that he cannot align the knowledge petals of the two inner groups, because they are love and sacrifice. So there is knowledge associated with love, he can't touch them. There is knowledge associated with sacrifice, he can't touch them. So he can do 3 out of 5. The love-wisdom aspect is atrophied in the case of the black magician. So what does DK said? They have wandered far into the land of distances. That's how he describes that, the land of distances. And he says, yes, they will come back, but they may have to sacrifice the development of an entire solar system, beginning as a monad again, going through the very low stages of in metallization, in vegetalization, in zoonation, and so forth. It's a big loss of time. He does, however, bring through the energy of the monastic permanent atom. So remember that the Manas, in a way, belongs to Brahma, and Brahma is not the theme of our present solar system. What is the theme in terms of the Hindu Trimurti? It is Vishnu, isn't it? So he has acute Manas, but very little Vishnu. He does, however, bring through the energy of the monastic permanent atom for the force of Mahat, which is a cosmic type of Manas. Mahat, of which Manas is an expression, is closely connected with what is erroneously called evil. See, DK has such a huge perspective on this matter. He doesn't name evil to be what we think it is. When he speaks philosophically, he says these are simply lords of form who have not readjusted their desire nature to include the Vishnu aspect. Mahat and cosmic evil have a close connection. Remember, I said yesterday that it is the maladjustment of one of the stars in the Great Bear with one of the stars in the Pleiades in relation to our solar system, which is bringing into our system what is called cosmic evil. And I think in both cases, it is a third ray star. The star Alioth, I think, even when you look at the Big Dipper, it even seems to be a bit low. You know, if it followed the right arc towards the fourth ray star, it would be in a different position. And I think it's probably related to one of the Pleiades, which you've been studying, and maybe the one that's connected with the Earth, the third ray Pleiad. The one who veils her face. Because the principle of the veil is connected with what aspect of divinity particularly? The third aspect, the third ray, the veil. The great existences, and they are cosmic, who are the principle of Mahat in its cosmic sense, are connected with lesser existences who express systemic evil. In other words, we have a great dedication to form among certain great existences, which are both systemic and cosmic in their nature. Now, the thing is, DK has called something like, he said, evil is the good which should have been outlived. So maybe there was a time when Mahat and mind and so forth were the energy of the hour, but now they are not. We should have passed the emphasis upon the primordial ray, certainly in our solar system, and maybe in the one about whom naught may be said as well. So maybe the emphasis is really on the second aspect. And whenever you emphasize something that should have been outlived, you are defining yourself in relation to an evil state, we call it. Yeah, I was thinking, I guess it will come back to me. Yes, I was thinking about evil as it expresses itself in the modern politics. It is usually a backward-looking tendency to reestablish former glory. You know, if you look at the whole Nazi movement, it was the attempt to revive and reestablish the ancient Superman of 250,000 years ago, who was possessed with all powers and a godlike form and all the rest of it. It was a hearkening backwards. The Japanese sought to establish the great samurai culture, reestablish it. Italy, fascist Italy, sought to reestablish the glory that was Rome. But of course, the glory that was Rome was riddled with cosmic evil, so they didn't have a great choice there. The Hebrews are trying to reestablish the ancient kingdom, and the fanatical Islamists want to restore the ancient caliphate. In each case, it's a hearkening back to supposedly glory days of the past and trying to force that on a time sequence which has nothing to do with it anymore. So it's always a bad sign when people are hearkening back to the glory that was, seeking to re-manifest it, rather than going forward to the glory that may be. Okay. So anyway, there are beings, and we don't come in touch with them, says DK. They're just way above us, and they don't bother with such as we are. They express systemic evil. We come in touch with their agents, but not the real thing. They are the sum total of the separative instrument. In other words, they are personally based, elementally based. And where separation in any form exists, there is to be found ignorance and therefore evil. That's quite a sentence. The Buddha said that ignorance was the one great sin. And where there is ignorance, there is the impossibility of perceiving in wholes. And where you cannot perceive and holds, you cannot have the love, wisdom, Buddhic energy. We read yesterday about what is intuition, and it's that power of universality, divine love and universality that perceives everything whole. Ignorance prevents that, because then only a certain domain within the whole is perceived, and of the rest you are ignorant, and you separate yourself from it. So ignorance, separation, and evil go together. You know, all of us, we have the tendency, says HPB, to be unconscious black magicians until we take the fourth initiation. So we're pretty much walled off in the causal body and are ignorant, therefore, because there's so much we cannot touch when we cannot enter the higher ethers freely. We are ignorant. But then that type of ignorance, at least, is banished at the fourth initiation. But from a certain point of view, we have a non-sacred planet, don't we? Which is ignorant in another sense. So, you know, occultly evil in a certain respect due to its ignorance. Separation negates comprehension. You know, if I'm always repulsing you, I'm certainly not going to understand you, right? Separation negates comprehension, or knowledge of that which is to be found outside the separated consciousness. For separative knowledge entails identification with that which is expressing itself through the medium of a form. And that's where the Black brothers really make the mistake. For them, the main arena of focus is that which occurs within the lower form. That's what they care about. And whatever powers they may call upon, they bring those powers to bear to enhance the unreal states that exist within the three lower elemental worlds. So somewhere DK says they have attached themselves to a great deva, and they cannot detach from this great being, and they must follow the fate of this being, which is dissolution, because the being is really representing the energy of an earlier solar system. Okay, therefore, yes. The thing about a black brother is that they are severed from the solar angel. They may have at one point had an association with that type of high being, but through a life of dedicated selfishness, they have snapped the connection. They still have a causal body, and it's in the process of decay. And you know, so they're called soulless men. That doesn't mean they don't have consciousness. It means they don't have the supervision of a heart of the sun Venusian love Buddhic being, because they reject that energy entirely. Yes, to you. This system, moon chain is from this system. That's correct. Heart development of the planet, yes. Those who came from the other system. Those are coming from the other system. But in that system as well, a planet was in the state of heart development, the solar angels would have been coming in. It was about Manas. The whole system was about Manas and Mahat. Okay. Yeah. Solar angels were the early men in the previous solar system. Who were those early men if they were solar angels? But I think they were. In many places, I've been just wondering. It looks more all the time that in this second solar system that the solar angels came. Yeah. It may be that the intervention of the solar angels was not part of the first solar system, but, or the previous one anyway, because there were more than one previous solar system. But I think that whoever came into the solar system, for instance, from the moon chain, had the opportunity to align with a solar angel. Whether that opportunity was taken, whether the relationship prospered, or whether they were so intent on preserving their initiate powers from the first solar system that they banished the solar angel, we don't know. Yeah. Well, and some of these people may have established quite a bridge between the monastic permanent atom and the mental unit, even in those days. But they were not initiates of the fourth degree. They could not have been by definition. So they still needed the culture of love, and they rejected that. They could not have passed the true third initiation. Yeah, exactly. Well, I believe that whoever came into the solar system had the opportunity to affiliate with a supervising solar angel. The only ones who have not yet affiliated with the supervising solar angel are the most primitive groups who could not be stimulated to the point in those early days when they could take advantage of that. But so they evolved very, very slowly on their own, as was the case in the moon chain. But they will, in the future, be associated. Anyway, this is one of those difficult areas, how solar angels came to affiliate with highly developed human beings from previous chains and also solar systems. But it's very clear that DK is writing for advanced humanity. And among that advanced humanity are many moonchain people who probably did not have the solar angel affiliation, and a number, I would say, of previous solar system people. And in every case, he writes about the presence of the solar angel. So somehow, in coming into our chain, that type of affiliation must have occurred. And we will have to leave that in the realm of speculation. We just don't know how it occurred yet. It didn't occur, it didn't occur in the way that we study individualization. Because in individualization, animal man received the spark of mind from the solar angel. The solar angel implanted itself in the animal mind and brain. But these people were already individualized. They already had egoic lotuses. And some of them had a number of petals open. So how did the solar angels re-affiliate or affiliate with this type so as to continue to guide its progress? This is never discussed, but it will have to be one day. Okay. Sorry. Therefore, the brothers of the shadow can and do reach high levels along one aspect of consciousness and touch certain specific heights of spiritual evil. Spiritual evil, meaning outside of our solar system altogether, going a great way along the line of Mahat or knowledge, the principle of universal mind. That is what Mahat means, the principle of universal mind. But so the major temptation towards evil comes along the line of mind at this time, although the majority of the dark brothers are first-ray souls, he says. They are on the line of the destroyer. First-ray souls, and I would say third-ray monads, they are missing the love aspect. They can reach in their later stages, and he doesn't define too much here, because he says, if you speculate along these lines, not only will it do you no good, but it's dangerous. So he just gives you a little, so you can put things in proportion. They can reach in their later stages expansions of consciousness and of power that will take them far beyond the confines of our solar system. In other words, we are really talking about cosmic evil, not just systemic evil. The sources of these beings lies beyond our solar system, and give them attributes and capacities which prove a menace to the unfolding of the second aspect. Now, you can see it happening on our planet right now, can't you? People want love and relationship, many people, the majority, and some want money and power, and do everything they can to hold back those more naive souls who want love and relationship, the newer souls. These ancient, powerful individuals know how to stop the coming together of relationship, and that's the battle that's being waged right now. You even saw it in the so-called Arab Spring, which is not over, is it? There are those who seem to want a whole new way of living, and there are those who are highly paid, military and other leaders, who want simply to preserve the status quo and their own prerogatives and powers. Okay, well, he says fascinating things, but it can be a temptation to get into this discussion of cosmic evil almost too much. I think it's enough to kind of see what he says and not belabor the subject. The first group of alignments, which is the monastic group of alignments, starting with the monastic permanent atom and ending in the brain, when not balanced by the second group, is the line of the black magician. The first group of alignments, when not balanced by the second group of love alignments, is the line of the black magician. It will lead him eventually out of the stream of fivefold energy we call monastic onto the cosmic path of phohatic energy, the strictly mahatic. So it's even more mental and powerful. And remember, it's a totally Brahmic line of development. We said, what is phohat? It is cosmic Brahma. Well, that's fine. It's a line of development, but the emphasis is not there now. And so when you see people overemphasizing the concrete mind to the exclusion of the love energy, it's a dangerous tendency. I remember once I came in touch with a guy. He was obviously on the fifth ray. We were waiting to go to a Lucis Trust full moon meeting, and I was somehow involved in that meeting, but I had an hour or two of free time, and I just somehow associated with this guy. We were walking along, and I was telling him what we do. He says, well, I'm not interested in that. He said, I'm interested in matter. Matter is what I'm interested in, matter alone. And I just got these, got these vibes from this fellow, and I realized this fellow was really going deeply into a line of inquiry which was occult but not spiritual. I never saw him again, but it was an interesting encounter with a purely 135 line of work. Yes. In relationship to that which is said, there's nothing ever which is not in the plan. There's nothing ever which is not in the plan. And then thinking about these people, and the principle of the etheric physical plane, harmony of the voice, which is divided into two parts. The one who are generating prana, and the ones that are forming the vehicle. I'm thinking about the big plan. It gives me some kind of idea. I remember that sometimes Blavatsky says, six-pointed star in relation to what? I'm not sure. I thought it was five-pointed star, but I'm not sure. Six-pointed star, you say, in relation to phohatic power. Yeah, it sounds to me like five-pointed star inverted. Now this is more, when one is interested in matter, it's more a Davic approach. Yeah, maybe in the cosmic sense, these beings are really becoming the cosmic forms. He said an interesting thing, that cosmic evil is no part of the plan of the planetary logos, but it is part of the plan of the solar logos. In other words, it can be factored in, it can be used. The brothers of the shadow can be used to further the plan of the solar logos. With respect to the planetary logos, he's not powerful enough. It's an interference. Well, this is the thing. Remember that the Black Lodge is given to what you might call Davic addiction. They really sell out to the Davic kingdom along various lines, and they're interested particularly in the Davic powers which are connected with lower matter. So maybe the solar logos can use that, but in the case of a human being who is a member of the fourth kingdom, which will eventually have a second ray soul, that aspect of love should not be ignored. If we think about the army of the wars, those who are transmitting the prana, radiating the prana, and we try to learn to radiate like the sun. So all of those who are accepting the second ray line will be on the cosmic level, those who are radiating the higher energy. Then we need also vehicles. Yes, there's no question. I mean, obviously we don't want to discount the value of form. It's just a question of balance. For a human being the member of the fourth kingdom, balance is paramount. And whenever we have lopsided development, too much of one aspect and not another, then we have a problem. It's even possible to have too much second ray and ignore the form and somehow be out of balance in that respect. And remember, the curious thing, the black magicians of the next solar system will be on the second ray. In other words, it will be the energy of love and attraction, which will be the energy they wield against the emerging energy of will. So anyway, they go on this Mahatic line. They are super intelligent. And when on that path, two directions are possible to him. One will keep him in touch with the natural substance aspect concerned with the cosmic incarnations of our solar logos, so staying within the system. The other will sweep him on to that center in the universe, unnamed, okay, which is the emanating source of the Mahatic principle. So maybe some have tried to speculate upon what that particular source may be. I don't think it's Sirius, although Sirius has much to do with Mahat. Because of Sirius, all evil, as we understand it, has been banished in the sunshine of the major sun. That's weird talk. So Sirius is already an initiate. So it's not going to be towards Sirius, although Sirius is very Mahatic in many ways, having probably a fifth ray soul. It is the focal point where is generated that type of energy which makes possible the dense physical manifestation of gods and men. And of course we need that dense physical manifestation, but think about what's going to happen in our solar system. Will dense matter persist? See, there will come a time in our solar system when dense matter will be etherealized, and the true matter, which is etheric matter, will then take the place of dense matter. So the future of dense material is very limited in our particular solar system, and maybe it is in the larger solar system, larger system as well. In making this statement, it is necessary to bear in mind that the dense physical sheath is never considered a principle. Well, maybe it used to be, but, in the earlier days, but not in our solar system anymore. It is ever deemed occultly evil, which means that it is obstructive to the development of the second aspect. The matter might be more simply expressed by stating that the black adept is frankly concerned with what is termed the residue of that which earlier was. In other words, He's on this big pile of waste and refuse and trying to find life interest in all that has been excreted and is no longer part of our system, really. It has to be redeemed. And instead of redeeming it, he exalts it and enjoys it. So he's got a limited future doing that, you know. He's a bit like the fly on the dung pile. He responds to the vibration of the solar system of an earlier, greater cycle in which the knowledge or the monastic principle was the goal of achievement. He does not respond to the impulse of this solar system, but this lack of response is hid in the karma of the earlier manifestation. Now, yesterday, we talked about a certain type of devas, which are connected with the monastic permanent atom and with Saturn, which gave lives in the earlier solar system a bridge into ours. These lives come from the earlier solar system, but they are not oriented towards the progress of our present system according to its principles. They want to reestablish the old. Again, see the principle? Reestablish the old system. Just like human beings, on a much lesser reflection, want to reestablish the glory that they imagine existed for their nation, etc., before this present time. It's all ego in the lower sense, lower ego. As we know, the sons of mind, or the incarnating jivas, are the returning nirvanis of a previous logoic incarnation. They have achieved mind and need love. Some few, and I think he's referring to us as sons of mind as well, although sometimes he means the solar angels, some few, through a mysterious cycle of events unexplainable, inexplicable to man in this solar system, repudiated opportunity and linked themselves with that great deva existence, which is the impulse of the dense physical, and they cannot loose themselves. You know, it's all said right here. As much as can be said is said. They are linked to a great material deva existence. They cannot make themselves free, and probably they don't even want to make themselves free. Their destination, as well as this deva existence, is hidden in the plans of the one about whom naught may be said, the supercosmic logos. And in this solar system, there is no hope for them. They cannot be redeemed in this solar system. Fortunately, they are little likely to make themselves known to average man. It is the adepts of the good law who meet them the most often. You know, this reminds me of Master Moria speaking about our complaints. He says, you complain about a few demons here and there, while the daggers of Satan are aimed at our backs. Meaning, the masters, the Chohans, are meeting the big guys, and you have a few minor devils to deal with. Well, just handle it, you know. So, the subject is most intricate, but some light may come if we remember that manas on the mental plane is found in two expressions. The mental unit on the form levels and the monastic permanent atom on the formless planes. Now, the brothers of darkness are connected with both of these, but maybe one more than the others. These two types of manas may be regarded as embodying the qualities of two kinds, white and black. This is very interesting. The mental unit, or the mind aspect of a man, for instance, is after all but the sixth sense. We have our five senses, and the mind synthesizes them all, and it's called the sixth sense. This mental unit is the basis of the sixth sense and has to be transcended by the higher mind and the intuition. Now, all of us on the right-hand path, the path of loving spirituality, have in mind to transcend the concrete mind. But not the black brother. As a matter of fact, what he does is he makes of the concrete mind an independent 13th sphere, which is said to be then the one of the meanings of the ill-omened number 13. So he separates the concrete mind into a sphere of its own. DK discusses this in relation to the creative hierarchies. The black brother carries the evolution of the senses onto a stage inconceivable to man now, and this sixth Mahatic sense is of vaster extent and service to them than it ever is to the white brother, the white adept. So rather than really cultivate the spiritual triad with Buddhi and Atma, he develops this mental unit as a sphere of its own and does things with it about which we can have no idea. Therefore, it will be apparent that for a long cycle of time, the black magician can persist and develop his powers because 1/3 of the force of the egoic lotus is his, and he knows how to use it to best advantage, namely the knowledge petals. He can use this. And we have been taught that the knowledge petals are the vehicles for the elemental personality. So this is all about the past, moon, form, matter, and the powers of the soul that are connected with the mental aspect. He builds also an antikarana, and this is really interesting, but of quality and objective different to that of the student of white magic. It is called the path of monastic evil, and bridges a gap between the mental unit of the magician concerned and certain correspondences on mental levels in the vehicles of the devas of that plane. So he builds into devic substance, he does not build into the members of the spiritual triad. He touches devic lives on the mental plane, from his mental unit into their substance, into their nature. Through this medium, and through identification with the devas, he can escape from the three worlds to spheres of evil incomprehensible to us. And of course, when DK uses a word like incomprehensible, he's just in a way saying, look, forget it. Just warning us off speculation about this, just to know that we must adhere to the right-hand path and not turn left, as it were. The point to be remembered here is that the black magician remains ever a prisoner. He cannot escape from substance and from form. Now, escape from substance and form is achieved by entering what area of life upon the cosmic physical plane? Escape from substance and form. How do you get there? Because remember, the black magician is active in the dense physical body of the Solar Logos. So where does the dense physical body of the Solar Logos end? End. Where is it finished? So that escape can be made. Right here, huh? Cannot enter the Buddhic plane. Can work with the monastic permanent atom, but cannot enter the cosmic ethers, which are the true physical body of the Solar Logos in his second major incarnation. He's had a number of incarnations. This is his second major incarnation. The cosmic ethers are the real physicality of the Solar Logos, not the leftover residue. Everything on these three lower planes is the leftover residue, and that's where the black magician is hanging out. By choice, by preference. That is his concern, that is his interest. Okay. There is no need to enlarge further on this subject. I would like to enumerate the lines of alignment of the third group, which eventually transcends the other two and affects the final illumination and liberation of the man, and certainly to the black magician, this is utterly closed. Even the second line of development was utterly closed. So, what is the motive behind this? Preserving the powers that one used to have, and not trusting. It's a lack of trust. Not trusting that what the greater God has to give could be greater than what one has already developed. So really cutting themselves off from 2/3 of the creative intention of the solar logos. Doesn't sound very smart to me, but in the short range it's effective. Okay, group number 3. And then we'll have a little discussion on what this may have meant to any of us. Group number 3 starts with the sacrifice petals, but of course it really goes to Atma, and it really goes to the highest will aspect of the monad. Okay, the sacrifice petals in the 2 outer groups, making 5. The 3 major centers in each of the 3 planes of the 3 worlds, producing the absorption of the lower 4 centers on each plane. In other words, first ray, synthesis. The 3 synthesizing planets absorb all the others. Rays 1, 2, and 3 absorb all the others. The head center, or 1,000-petaled lotus, the pineal gland, producing the vivification and irradiation of the entire lower nature. So this is the consummation of human development. It awaits us in the next solar system or in the higher initiations. The will line of development. These 3 groups of forces, when synthesized, the 3 lines he's given us, produce eventually that perfect coordination and adaptation to all conditions, forms, and circumstances which eventuate in the escape of the liberated vital spark. What does this mean? The escape of the liberated vital spark. What is this other than alchemy? What is this vital spark? In other words, when you get the monastic line, the heart line, and the will line all together, there's such a coordination that it makes possible the escape of the liberated vital spark. What is it, and where does it escape to? Any ideas on this? Take a look at the map. First of all, what is the vital spark? Sometimes it's also called by a different name, called the volatile essence. Does that help at all? Because volatile means that which flies. Vola. The flying essence, escaping. One day, one fine day. How many temples do you have in your constitution? How many temples are there? And can any temple hold you? Okay, you have King Solomon's temple, don't you? What is that? What is King Solomon's temple? Causal body. What other 2 temples do you have? Other 2 temples? Well, you have they're called the 3 periodical vehicles. Loud microphone level. Uh-oh. I'll try to make this a little lower. Okay. Hopefully not too much lower. All right. Have you ever heard of the tabernacle in the wilderness? DK talks about this. Before they built King Solomon's temple, they built the tabernacle in the wilderness. And that is simply the third periodical vehicle, which is personality. What is the highest temple of all? What's it called? Okay, but in terms of temple, what's it called? Yes, it is the monad, but what temple is it? The temple of Ezekiel. You have the temple of Ezekiel, the temple of Solomon, and the tabernacle in the wilderness. Who lives inside the temple? Which is, yes, which is none other than the vital spark in various forms of immersion. So, if you liberate the vital spark from the tabernacle in the wilderness, its next temple is the Temple of Solomon. If you shatter the causal body, its next objective is to live within the Temple of Ezekiel. Does the Temple of Ezekiel last forever? Does the monadic vehicle last forever? On the second subplane of the cosmic physical plane. In other words, every one of us has the Temple of Ezekiel right up here in one of 7 groups. How long does that last? Not forever. Comes the day. And when is that day? What initiation? What is it there? Maybe even before. Comes the day when you have passed the 6th initiation. Maybe you're getting ready to take the 7th initiation, like the Christ to the Buddha. What happens to the monadic temple? It also breaks. What flies free? What is called the volatile essence or vital spark flies free onto the logoic plane from the monadic plane. Does that make sense? Into the sea of fire. That's the liberation. That's the final alchemical process. The liberation of the volatile essence into the sea of fire, leaving behind the temple of Ezekiel in shambles. Then it's done without a monadic vehicle. It's done, in other words, here's what I'm saying. The volatile essence is the real monad. The temple of Ezekiel is only the house of the monad. So the real monad is the vital electric spark that is liberated from the temple at the 7th initiation. We think about all the planes of the cosmic physical. We can still find the 9th initiation, yes. When we think about the monad or the when the egoic lotus is dispersed, the portal point is moving from subplane to subplane. It could be. In other words, once the volatile essence is released from the monadic vehicle, it could find different points of focus on the logoic plane, lower and eventually higher, until the volatile essence at the 9th initiation is ready to do what? We may have to study this, you know. We may actually have to study the cosmic paths and the 9 initiations. What happens to the volatile essence at the 9th degree? What's the name of the 9th initiation? It's called the refusal. Refusal. It's the refusal to have anything to do with the cosmic physical plane. And so you go onto the cosmic astral plane after the 9th initiation. Sure, it keeps going. The two lowest planes of the cosmic astral plane may not be in the same category as the two lowest systemic subplanes. He talks about the homocosmic evil, but he doesn't specify where it is. Okay, well, here's the question: where is cosmic evil really located? And is it located on the two lower subplanes of the cosmic astral? Okay, it's probably a bit beyond us. But he does call the cosmic astral plane the plane of pure love. So there is a certain group of workers. We'll have to study this. These are the 7 cosmic paths. They're in the second of the cosmic paths, which is called the path of magnetic work. Path of magnetic work. The 5th ray monads, lots of them, are liberated onto the cosmic astral plane, from which they direct streams of rosy light onto our astral plane and drain off the bad stuff and put in the good stuff. This is one of the... See, you know, I know that this is a bit of a stretch, but one day, all of us, as liberated monads, will have the choice of which way to go. And of course, it will probably be the way that we descended long ago. So, according to our monadic ray, which is one way of looking at it, as there tend to be certain proportions of monads of certain types that go on different paths, we will choose a path. And that path will eventually take us to a particular constellation connected with that path, and will eventually, and this should ring a bell, bring us back to the Pleiades. After all the constellations are in the intermediate phase, journeyed to, eventually we will find ourselves back at the hub of the wheel in the Pleiades, where all the 9 paths meet. 7 paths, 9 paths, 9 major stars in the Pleiades, they all will meet there. That will be a long time from now. Anyway, what was my point? Wait, let me just finish. That you are a vital spark. You are a volatile essence. That is what your monad is. That's what you as a monad is. And every periodical vehicle is an encapsulation. It's a temple, very beautiful, but it's a limitation. And at every step, you have to break out of your temple. No temple will survive. Not even the temple on the monadic plane. It will not survive because it is too much of a confinement to what you are as a monad. Freedom is calling. But before we can be free, we have to learn the temple we're in. Fully develop our powers within that temple, fully express ourselves within that temple, and help beautify it, and then we are made free for the 7th, 8th, and 9th initiations. Yes. You, the monad. You are a conscious, fully aware spirit on the monadic plane, choosing your path of future development, which will last millions and billions of years. Yes. Now that, you know, that's at the end of 3 books. He even introduced it in Initiation, Human and Solar. You would say, oh, here's a little book, it's easy. Sorry. But he even introduced the idea of the 7 cosmic paths in Initiation, Human and Solar. Then in Cosmic Fire, a few years later, he elaborated on these paths and the astrology and the symbology and what you have to do. Then in his very last book, which was The Rays and the Initiations, he developed even further the theme of the 7 cosmic paths and added 2 more paths to it, making the 9 of the Pleiades, because that's where it all ends, at the hub of the cosmic wheel. And that's just the beginning of further and future progress. It's kind of staggering to realize how big the whole thing is. I mean, when we look at a little ant or a little bug or a little flea, we say, too bad they don't understand the world as we understand it. But you can well understand that there are those lives that look at us and go, you know, like we're little bugs or fleas. And there are those lives for whom even the solar logos is a crystal, putting things in proportion. So we live in an incredible immensity. Is what? Well, the trouble is you can't give up because you're it. Your problem is you're already home and you don't know it. You can't give up, and you know, here's the thing. If I can be allowed to be metaphysical for a moment, you've already, you the one life, have already lived through infinitudinous universes, and you've never given up. You can't, because there's only one being, and its nature is simply to be. So it almost staggers the mind to realize what we've all been through in various forms forever. In other words, it just wipes out everything we know about what the mind can think and do. So we're focused on such a tiny little portion of interest, and what lies before us, even in this infinitesimal universe, is immense. We have 150 trillion years to go in our solar system. How many more years does the universe per se have to go? And that's just an infinitesimal universe, one out of limitless infinity. So I know it's almost too much for the mind. It is too much for the mind to comprehend. It is a mind destroyer. Yes. If I was looking at you, I could see what. Now, Anne, I have just unmuted you, and you can now speak. Go ahead. Yes. You've just raised your hand, but a bit. I hope they continue. They might catch up with the occultists. Okay, now. Man from America said. A man says the age of the universe is at least 20 times more, and 20 times is like nothing. But even he's in the right direction. Well, that's pretty good. Remember that the world was created in 4004 BC. It wasn't that Bishop Ulster, an Irish bishop, who calculated that at 9 o'clock in the morning on such and such a date, at 4004 BC, the world, meaning everything, was created. Now, we have adjusted our sense of time somewhat to that 4004 BC. Was it? Oh, it was 8:30. Oh, I mean, it wasn't 9 o'clock in the morning. It was 8:30. You know, and I keep on wanting to say, what morning? You know, what morning? Anyway, man has a microscopic view of the age of this planet and the age of our solar system and the age of the universe. And this kind of adjustment will be finally coming into our consciousness. And maybe in the last analysis, it will make us both more patient and impatient at the same time. patient knowing the huge expanse, but impatient knowing that it's up to us what we do with it. So we might as well get on with it, because we're just wasting our time dreaming about some fatuous harp-playing heaven or paradise or whatever, where we're going to live happily. Who's going to live happily? The elemental personality, which will be resurrected from the earth in a, well, some people will be pretty and some people will be ugly. What can you do? But there you are forever. Your one life, you're going to look like this forever in heaven, but you'll shine a bit more, and you're expected to be happy playing the harp or having 72 wives. Whatever. I don't think a man with 72 wives is the definition of happiness. No. But don't forget, she only has eyes for you. And she has see-through skin of a slightly bluish tint. Yes, very, very pretty. And I think she re-becomes a virgin every night. Oh, but that's quite okay, because in heaven you have 100 times the sexual power that you have here on earth. As if 100 was enough. All right, I'm just looking forward. I'm just saying, in the realm of glamour and illusion, many things are possible. Okay. So that's why the ageless wisdom is needed, to straighten out a few misconceptions, wouldn't you say? So anyway, let's just finish this before we take our break. Okay, the liberated vital spark. Now, there's one liberation of the vital spark. It occurs at the fourth initiation, but I went way beyond that to the seventh initiation, when the temple of Ezekiel is destroyed, and that's the true liberation of the volatile essence. Because at the fourth degree, the vital spark is liberated into the triad, and as you proceed, it eventually finds its place consciously in the monad, in the monadic vehicle, and then when the sixth initiation is over and you're on your way, it will be liberated onto the logoic plane. At least that's my present theory, which I think is the true home of the monad, short of being in the sun. All right. So anyway, this is technically, the liberation of the vital spark is technically accomplished when the bud opens, and it becomes possible for the Hierophant at initiation to liberate the energy of the monad and to direct that energy through the agency of the rod, so that eventually it circulates free and untrammeled through every part of the lower threefold manifestation. As it circulates from the monad, it destroys by burning, for it arouses the Kundalini aspect perfectly by the time the fifth initiation is taken. So it sounds like you actually do have a vehicle there that you can use, and maybe it's a Maya Varupa, I'm not sure. Can you take an initiation in a Maya Varupa? From the time you're a fourth degree initiate, you can build one, but usually it's later, after the fifth degree, that you build one. The destroyer aspect becomes dominant, and the form is burnt upon the altar, meaning it's entirely redeemed, it's made sacred, it's made fiery, it becomes the body of flaming fire. What is it here? In Cosmic Fire, there's a beautiful name for it. I think it's on page 166, somewhere here. Let's see. What's it called? Force. Okay. All right. Or was it 167? Okay. Slowest center. Or is it 168? It's right here somewhere. It's called, no, it's not 169. I don't think that's it. It's the place where it tells us how the chakras really come from the monad. It should be right here. Okay. Usually I would know exactly where it is. I know where it is on my... Well, it's something. It's called the body of living flame, or something of that nature. And maybe it's 160. Could it be 165? Okay. Yes, getting there. Maybe. Okay. Well, I'll find it for you. It's it's called something like the body immortal, or it's the etheric body when all the centers are fully awake. The nature of the centers, and usually I've underlined this, but this must be okay, body of living flame, center at the top of the head. Okay, will to live, rotated. Anyway, look in your Cosmic Fire book around 166 and see if you can, unless you know what I might have done, I might have cut the paragraph out by mistake. Just check on page 167. The centers are not physical things, they are whirlpools of force, and they come from the monad. Well, for some reason it's missing, so I'm beginning to think that I may have done a Control X and cut the whole paragraph out, because I know that it's here. Well, no, I didn't cut it now. It was cut before. I think so. But just check who has a Cosmic Fire book here? It's about this body of living fire or flame. Yeah. Well, if I've cut it out, it won't be there. I think it's at the bottom of, well, if I do a search, it should be at the bottom of 166 or something. Somewhere there. All right. Reference erased. Body of fire. What page is that? 160 what? 166. At the bottom. Okay, 166. Aha, something's happened here because my 167 is missing. Aha. Okay, I'll put that in afterwards. I'll borrow your book and just check it out. Anyway, the body of fire is formed. These ideas can also be studied in their larger aspect. A clue to the mystery of cosmic evil may be found in the difference existing between the sacred and non-sacred planets, and in the purpose and place, hitherto unrecognized, of the lives of the informing existences of many planets and planetoids in the solar system. Some of these planets and planetoids are purely Mahatic, or of the third aspect, and are dominated by the Devas. Others, of which the sacred planets are examples, are controlled by the second aspect, and that second aspect will work through unconquerably into manifestation. And now the Earth. Others, of which the sacred planets are examples, are controlled by the second aspect. Okay, a few, like our Earth, are battlegrounds, and the two aspects are in collision, with the indication of eventual triumph of the white magic. Okay, that's it. Alignment of what nature? Yes, I talked about the misalignment between the third and the second aspect. Yes. In other words, in a way, the third aspect is too low. The star is too low, the third aspect is too low. Yes. We have not brought our third aspect to the point where it can really respond to the second aspect, and this is what all this occult training is about. Yes. This is becoming a full-blown thing. Okay, I wish you to have a nice 15-minute break. And I would like to borrow someone's Cosmic Fire book and to sneeze all over it. No, I would like to borrow your book. Thank you. Okay, some sacrificial soul is here. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Take a little break.